Hello, I'm Nick Keeves of the Roundabout Report. Numerous eyewitness accounts report seeing local jackass Ryal Coulter causing mass panic and destruction throughout the entire state. Here are several victims of his deranged crimes.
Yeah, I saw him alright. That bastard was hanging a toddler by its goddamn tippy toes.
Yeah, I don't think that's Ryal. I'm pretty sure that's just the resurrected ghost of GamerKGR on a Halloween mask.
Shut up, bitch! Jumping to conclusions is our God-given right! If you witness this man, citizens are encouraged to shoot on sight. That's the Evening Roundabout Report, signing out.
Oh, howdy, guys. I'm just here stuck dealing with the annual Christmas slander. I mean, all I did was violate the laws of nature for the sake of having a fun time with my awesome ghost friend, and now he's out and about acting like I committed war crimes or something. Some people, man. Normally, I'd just do what any rational, like-minded person would do and publish their home address on the internet, but he's already dead, so that's pretty unhelpful. But even if I could do that, which I should, there's still a lot on my plate at the moment. No fake-outs this time. Today is the day we end our little Wii Series saga. I've done a lot to make this happen. I've revisited my past, I've discovered previously unknown ground, puked several vials of my own blood, harassed an old woman who doesn't know I exist, and raised the literal dead to get to this point. I've made it this far, and I'm gonna finish it. Everyone understand? Good. Now let's get those Wii remotes out, shall we? I've been keeping them safe in my magic drawer. Wrong magic drawer. Well, we've done it. We've reached the final 3 games released in the original Wii series. We've seen the humble beginnings and subsequent rise of a casual gaming giant and the many other games that have resulted from its success. Sequels and spin-off games that centered around that same idea of a simple motion control-based minigame compilation that applied to various different genres like music, party games, and game developer crunch time. But by now, aka 2011, Nintendo had seemingly sucked pretty much everything they could out of the Wii series. Wii Play Motion was a definite sign of that, selling nowhere near as well as any of the previous games. Hell, even Wii Music, the most contentious game in the entire series, sold better than Wii Play Motion. Any rational person would probably agree that the Wii series had run its course by now, especially with a brand new Nintendo console on the way, but that would be giving them too much credit, wouldn't it? If they can get away with beating a dead horse 5 times, I'm pretty sure they can get away with doing it 7 times. Why? Well, clearly you've only been a Nintendo fan for 3 seconds, so let me get you up to speed. Not sure if you noticed, but Nintendo is a corporation, so that should say enough. The point is that they were not so willing to just let the Wii name die, thus the Wii U was born. It's a pretty good console from a retrospective look, but the lack of separation between it and the original Wii is astonishing. Not exactly a surprise though. Something that's been mentioned a collective 7 billion times is that most people had no idea it was even a new console. So at the next year's E3, they tried to make that point a little clearer. They showed off new games like New Super Mario Bros. U. Oh, yes, with this new HD console, Nintendo thought it best to try and revive the Wii series. Sure, that thought alone might give you immediate cardiac arrest, but I think differently. I'm hyped out of my goddamn mind. 3 incredibly obscure games in this wacky funhouse of a franchise is a comedy goldmine begging for an excavation. Personally, I've always wanted to know what it would feel like to touch all of my favorite Wii Sports characters. It's kinda obvious how desperate they were if they were banking on this guy saving their console, but still, I think it's poetic that we end things off with the most outlandish and chaotic concepts I ever heard of. They made an HD Wii Sports with microtransactions. How can I not indulge? However, it's best we do things chronologically for once, so let's begin with the Wii series' first Wii U game. It's yet another entry in the Wii Fit series. Now, they didn't cheap out and call it something like Wii U Fit. They called it Wii Fit U. You see, it's twists like that that always keep me coming back for more. Wii Fit U was co-developed between Nintendo EAD and Ganbarion, which sounds like some ancient Greek war tactic. This is going to be pretty common throughout all of these games, with them all being co-developed by other companies. As we saw with Wii Play Motion, that usually isn't the greatest sign. E3 2012 would be where the game was announced, you know, the presentation that was supposed to show everyone that it's not just another Wii. After some delays, the game's official release would be on October 31st in Japan, November November 1st for North America and Europe, and the next day in Australia. I'm not quite sure what to expect here, but at the very least, we've reached a pretty big milestone. Wii Fit U has to take the cake for the worst box art in the entire Wii series. It's the most soulless corporate thing I've ever laid eyes on. It's just some lady in a white void, not even looking at the game she's playing, and surrounded by a completely bland collage of random screenshots that look like an IKEA catalog. I can't even believe I'm saying this, but at least the older games were consistent in their design. I suppose I can't get too hung up on that because we've got a game to play.
Yeah, we get it. Alright, I'm about as ready as Marsha from whatever, who cares?
Upon starting up, it's pretty clear what this game actually is when it pops up saying I can transfer my save data from Wii Fit Plus, exactly how you could import data from that game. I clicked no just to see if anything was different. Ah, some familiar sights. Okay, maybe too familiar. It's just Wii Fit in HD, isn't it?
No.
If you've seen Part 3, you'd immediately recognize the body test segments. In short, they're basic games that test your Wii Fit age based off of pretty shoddy health standards. It's all literally identical. Same graphics, same gameplay, same old fat shaming, except this time they even take your picture just in case you weren't thoroughly humiliated. I swear guys, it's just muscle. There are a few new body tests where you just move the gamepad. An exciting new way to exercise, you say. Frankly, they're exercising my patience, so let's just cut right to the Wii Fit Plaza. It's the same with snazzier music and a blue sky. Same for the menus, they're just a more refreshed version of the original. On an unrelated note, I was never a fan of how the Wii U rendered the Miis. The incredibly shiny hue they all have make them look like porcelain dolls, and it just doesn't look good. Speaking of glossy, where this game really shines is the training mode. First of all, the routines from Wii Fit Plus have their own distinct menus. In addition, there's a new gym community tab where you can join a group through nothing. It wasn't much, just a community of other Wii Fit U players where you could compare each other's scores and exercise techniques. But now we finally get into Wii Fit U's collection of mini-games. Takes us a while to get to those now, huh? The yoga and strength training's basically the same, except they now all come pre-installed with a free Peeping Tom simulator. That's innovation in progress if I've ever seen it. Just about every game from Wii Fit Plus made it into here. Some were removed, like advertising the game, Lotus Focus, some of the more basic ones, and Rhythm Parade. Those sadists better have a damn good reason why they trash one of the greatest inventions ever created by mankind. Sigh. At least we have rhythm boxing and kung fu. On the Wii Fit Plus side, they all now have extra mode, which changes up the gameplay in some way. Anything that lets me do ass math in the dark is a miracle in my eyes. But what about the new games?
Christ, you're so impatient.
Like always, let's go over the new mini-games. Over in aerobics, we have Puzzle Squash. This game uses the Wii Remote Plus, which is probably my favorite part of this game. It finally added Motion Plus support, something I've been wanting them to add since Wii Fit Plus. The enhanced motion controls aren't really utilized here though, since it's basically that target game from all the way back in the original Wii Sports training mode. You play tennis against God's greatest enemy, color, trying to combine as many blocks as the same color together. You use the balance board to walk where you hit the ball. In short, this is like Wii Sports tennis with an extra step. Next, there's free boxing. It's an endless version of rhythm boxing, like Free Step and Free Run from the previous games. I like rhythm boxing way more, so it's actually something I'd enjoy doing for 10 minutes straight. Here's our first game utilizing the gamepad, Orienteering. This is the game with the coolest concept, but pretty lame execution. The gist is that you'll be given a description of a Mii on the gamepad, where you then actually walk around Woohoo Island looking for them. I've always wanted to explore the island from a first-person perspective. Island Flyover from Wii Sports Resort was something I always loved for its visuals, but there's not much to see up close. Here, you get to walk around the town, albeit with some weird tank controls. Another thing I notice is that since it's December, it has a cool winter overlay. No matter what issues I have with them, I'll always appreciate their talent for showmanship. But an issue I do have is that the map is very restrictive. You can only walk around Woohoo Town and the Queen Peach. I know that's only because you're just looking for Miis, but that's the only part I don't care about. Do something like the island cycling game that also made its way into Wii Fit U. Something like a photography game where you just take photos of the landmarks would be awesome. As it stands though, it's alright. Finally, we have rowing. It's a race between your team and 3 others where you row in sync with the instructor. At first, I tried an actual rowing position until I realized that you could could just move like one of those German cuckoo clock things and pretty much always win. Now we head once again over to the balance games. Trampoline Target is that game you'd probably recognize from the E3 trailer. You bounce on a trampoline over and over again, trying to land in the middle so you can jump higher. I think it's pretty fun, but man, it kills your knees. If I develop arthritis in my 60s, I will be suing Ganbarian. Hose Down reminds me a hell of a lot of that one Super Mario Sunshine micro game from WarioWare Smooth Moves. You move the gamepad around to aim this water gun at a bunch of Miis covered in mud. Using the balance board to increase the pressure lets you take down those giant mud monsters. Oh, thank God, they're just Miis. Dessert Course just cements my immense fear of working as a waiter. I mean, they give you these basic high school lunch trays to carry these conveniently spherical desserts to a bunch of greedy asshats who do nothing but block your way. I can only imagine the manager just watching from a back room, maniacally rubbing his hands together as he perpetually torments his employees. Obstacle Course got a very colorful upgrade in the form of Ultimate Obstacle Course. The big thing here is that you can turn now, but just because you can doesn't mean you should. The balance board is just really bad at detecting sideways footsteps. It was an issue in the step games, and it's still very apparent here. It's not too difficult, but very cumbersome. The new snow sports game is Core Luge. This is one of my favorite sports games because the controls work well for what it is. You sit on the board, tilting left and right to control a sled going down a track. You can tilt backwards to go faster, and once I got the controls down, it was a really fun time. It's very physical, so I couldn't play it for too long, but this is one of the times where it's worth it. Scuba Search has you search for fish in a scuba outfit. Oh, it's like Endless Ocean, but not for milquetoast grandpas. Finally, we have what is absolutely the coolest and most creative use of the Wii remotes in the entire game. Climbing has a pretty self-explanatory purpose, but its controls are really cool. The game requires you to use two Wii Motion Plus remotes in each hand to climb, where you point the remotes in the direction you want your hands to grab. It's, you know, the Wii Remote Plus, so it's still a little wonky, and maybe I would have preferred boulder hands over gangly stalker claws, but the gameplay itself is very intuitive.
Now, I'm sure you noticed that little dance tab in the training menu and are asking, Ryal, is there a dance mode in this game? No, of course not. It's a f***ing ice cream parlor.
Yes, there is a dance section here, and at first I assumed it would just be a Just Dance clone or something like that. However, upon further inspection, I realized that this seems to be the hangout spot for Lovecraftian clay creatures. Realistically proportioned Miis are real and coming for us all. I really feel bad for being creeped out by the Wii Fit trainers and thinking that Miis would be better. They're just not. Anyways, this is probably the most yoga mom thing Wii Fit's ever come up with. There are different styles of dance you can learn. Each dance session starts out with the instructor explaining it to you, then letting you practice. Each dance is just you hitting the balance board and swinging the Wii remotes at the right time. Wait, no. This is just the mangled corpse of Rhythm Parade. I guess they liked it so much they dismembered it and spread it throughout their latest passion project like some obsessed serial killer. In all honesty, though, I actually like them. I don't think they should spread it out into 8 different styles, considering you're doing the same things over and over again. And let's be fair, this isn't exactly dancing. I can't remember the last time I've been lock dancing, and I'm pretty sure half of these moves are one of the things you can get assaulted in public for doing. My favorite is Burning Beats, as it's just non-stop fake dancing for 5 minutes, which I think is a lot more engaging. And with the Motion Plus support, it's a lot more responsive than Rhythm Parade. So besides the wanky Mii designs and completely unnecessary fodder, it's an alright mode. Heading away from the games for a bit, there's new health modes in Wii Fit U. There's the routines that I mentioned, as well as the gym communities, the personal trainer, basically all the health junk from the previous games. Hell, even the Wii Fit channel made a return, but now it's just some lame eShop app. But Wii U gamepad functionality was just not enough. The gimmicky peripheral shenanigans continue with the Wii U Fit Meter. This little disc was sold alongside Wii Fit U when it first launched, I assume to justify its existence in the first place. The thing itself is just a basic pedometer with other features like an accelerometer to track your steps, but it also has an altimeter, meaning it can detect if you're running up a hill or an incline to more accurately measure how many calories you've burned. To set it up, you just pointed at the Wii U gamepad's IR sensor, a stark reminder of how far we've come from just swing the Wii remote. The idea here is to clip it to your pants, go about your day, then later on open up Wii Fit U and transfer the data. It shows alongside your other in-game activity, making me realize that this is essentially a replacement for the non-in-game activity tab in the original games. There's also the Fit Meter challenges, where you basically compare your distance walked to that of real-world landmarks and countries. It's fine, but I frankly don't care how close I am to St. Mary's Cathedral. Also, if it looks familiar, that's because it was quite literally a reskinned Pokewalker, just the same thing, but for Pokemon. Now, I don't really care about any of that because I just think it's such a cool collectible. It's just so neat for a Wii nerd like me to see my Mii in this pixelated form and all the blips and bit-crunched Wii Fit sound effects it makes. There's really nothing else like it. But to any average guy, it's pretty indicative of a major problem I have. For the first time ever in my life, I have to go back on something I said previously. I know, blasphemous that I would even think of such a conclusion, but it's true. Also in part 3, I mentioned how it was really neat how in-depth all of Nintendo's attempts to make the game more health-conscious were. And while I still think that's true, that doesn't really matter. No one is playing Wii Fit to actually get fit. Odds are they start up the game, play some hula hoop, maybe a body test or two, then leave it to rot in their attic. Even me, whenever I'm not just getting footage, I never touch the actual health parts. It's a novelty, but incredibly impractical in every sense of the word. Look at me, who in their right mind thinks this is practical? And no matter how many fancy bells and whistles they attach to it, that fact will stay. Overall, Wii Fit U is still a really fun game, but just not something that really needed to exist. At first, it was kind of neat to see the original Wii Fit games in HD, but after a while, it just kind of felt like I was playing the game in Dolphin Emulator or something. I like the new mini-games and the dance games are fine, but I don't think it was worth dedicating an entire section to it. The Fit Meter is just such a neat gadget to have as a Wii fan, but I'd never actually use it. If you already have the original games and a Wii U, then just play those, because I doubt this game is worth $30.
So far, we haven't had the greatest introduction into this shiny new era of motion-controlled adventures, but don't worry, we still have 2 more to go. Now, where did I put that other one?
Breaking update, we are able to conduct an interview with the alleged domestic terrorist responsible for several deaths, and they didn't like Wii Play. That bastard!
Mr. Amazing, why commit these heinous crimes?
Well, I think it's because I'm upset at the world for making me an ugly basement-dwelling murderer who betrays his friends and doesn't wash his hands when he goes to other people's houses!
Hey, I told you that in confidence! Alright, look, foreign soap, it just scares me, okay? Whatever, I'm gonna go enjoy Christmas like a real American. Another tradition is that of the Christmas party, and I have all the amenities needed for such an occasion. We got food, drinks, prescription medication. We party you. Ha 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 ha, the gang's all here.
Yes, Nintendo's next target for HD assimilation would be the surprisingly good Wii Party. When I first played it a few months ago, I was pleasantly surprised at how good it was. I was pretty skeptical considering it was a pretty late Wii Series game and it was developed by the same guys that made all the bad Mario Party games, but I was shocked to see that while there were way too many nothing modes that didn't add anything to the game, the core modes that were there were really fun to play. So even if it is just another Wii Party, I think that would be just fine. Wii Party U would again be developed by Nintendo and ND Cube and would be announced in Nintendo's January 2013 Direct. Later in the summer, they delayed the game to fall 2013, and it was finally released in North America and Europe on October 25th, 2013, Australia on October 26th, and Japan on October 31st.
Wii Fit U was meh, so maybe Wii Party U might be a little different. It can either be good or bad. I'm just pulling your leg. They're either great, mediocre, or suicidingly okay.
We start up the game with this very fitting title screen of the Miis being led to their deaths. Just brings out the Christmas spirit, doesn't it? We enter the main menu and oh boy, house party's back. Everyone f***ing run! Okay, maybe I'm being harsh, but even though I know I'm definitely not, let's just familiarize ourselves with the games here. So despite how it looks, none of the game modes from the original Wii Party made it back, being replaced with entirely new modes. I like that because I was a pretty huge fan of the more experimental party games they had in the original, so I'm excited to see if that's still true here. This time it's a lot more streamlined. There's 3 main sections: TV Party, House Party, and Gamepad Party. Like before, there's also a section entirely dedicated to the mini-games and the different modes you can play there. It's definitely much less chaotic here, and I feel way less intimidated by it. I guess we'll have to start over in the TV Party games. This is where all the what I like to call normal games are. They're all pretty much like the original party games, but with new boards and mechanics. First off, we have Highway Rollers. It's like Board Game Island, but instead it's this long-ass zigzaggy bridge that is pretty uninteresting to look at. What is interesting though are the graphics. The fact that I'm even mentioning the graphics of a Wii Series game means something. Obviously it looks nicer in HD, but past that it looks really next gen. I think what really helps here is the shading. Some people take for granted how much lighting can really affect how a game looks. It's not like that really matters because it's, you know, Wii Party U, but I figured I'd mention it. Back to the game, the main mechanic this time is rolling dice. Depending on how you place in the minigames, you get a shit ton of dice to roll. If you want, you can shake the Wii remote to unlock your Super Saiyan power, which I obviously used frequently. It sounds like a lot of spaces, but it makes more sense when you look at the board itself. That, of course, leads us directly to the mini-games. They're entirely new games this time around, and I really liked most of them. Dominoes, basketball, pole vaulting, cycling over canyons, Pac-Man in space! Or maybe you just want to take a nice, relaxing stroll through the savannah while an ostrich tries to eat your face. Again, we have 4v4 and 1v1, but the 1v3 games actually use the gamepad. One guy uses it against the other 3 players, and while it's pretty basic where a Wii U game's considered, in a series full of the same basic concept being repeated over and over again, it's a really nice change of pace. As always, I f***ing hate the luck mini-games and hope each of their respective developers die in a fiery car crash. Like Board Game Island from the original game, there are several types of spaces you can land on that move you forward or back, multiply the number of dice you have, or one of my personal favorites, the ones that swap player positions. By the halfway point of the game, it pretty much devolves into everyone constantly swapping positions, which I find mildly entertaining at first, but it gets old pretty quickly. Now, I must tell a personal story. The story of how I became friends with Massimo. At first, he was winning every minigame and way ahead of everyone else. However, a friendly alien came along and began the intense struggle of him and I switching spots. We would frequently meet at the same space, getting to know one another. Massimo's got a weird sense of humor, but at the end of the day, he just wants to make everyone happy, and that's something I can respect. Eventually, he comes across this spinning bridge thing. After a few tries, he was finally able to crack the code to open it and allow us to continue on our path. Using this newfound courage, I proceeded to clean ass at every minigame and win the victory with a little bridge puzzle showdown of my own. The sacrifices he made will never be forgotten.
Those are the words of a very sane individual.
Next, we have Gamepad Island. Here we can finally see the gamepad's functionality in this game, and son of a bitch, it requires 2 people! Well, my current party buddy's a little off his rocker, but I'll come up with something.
It's kind of hard to explain.
It's yet another board game mode, although much closer in appearance to Board Game Island. The graphics really shine here, man. It's great. Like the name suggests, you use the gamepad by swapping between players every turn. Now, the weird thing is how you roll the dice. You can just roll the dice normally with the touchscreen and what have you, but every turn introduces a small mini-game of its own just to roll the dice. Like this one, where you shoot a cannon at a die number, or this one, which is just a basic wheel. That's alright, I guess, but later on they get really f***ing nuts, like blowing into the mic to propel this ball into one of the numbers, or playing a mini pinball game, or this really weird one where you pour water out of a beaker, and depending on how much water is left, that's your number of spaces. I gotta be honest, for how outright bizarre that is, I actually kinda like it. Why? I have no idea. I just must be some kind of masochist for gimmicky gamepad integration. An arguably cool use of the gamepad comes in the challenge spaces. Basically, when you come across these big walls, you'll have to play a little game where you draw an outline on the gamepad. However, you're instructed to turn the screen away from you to make it more difficult. It really goes to show how much they use the gamepad in really fun ways. Everything else is essentially the same. Make your way through this jungle with various traps and spaces that you would expect, and do one more gamepad puzzle to nab your ill-earned profits.
Aha, I got you. No, wait.
Me Fashion Plaza is yet another board game mode, but finally we get all new mechanics. You walk around this unrealistically large strip mall, visiting several different fashion stores. They contain a variety of clothing from several famous fashion designers like Ninja, Pirate, Mario, and Spaceman. The objective here is to collect enough clothing with a high enough rating, or collect an entire set of clothing from one category. Eventually, you'll make your way around the board and come across the center stage, where your outfit's judged, and depending on what criteria you meet, you'll earn points. If you land a versus space, you play a mini-game, and if you win, you can steal a piece of clothing from someone else. It's kinda complex at first, but you'll get the gist as it goes on. That's my issue, though. It goes on for f***ing ever, lasting 13 whole rounds. I'd forgive it if it were like 8 rounds, but 13? It just gets so monotonous by the end that while I still enjoy the concept, it just wasn't worth it. Thankfully, the next game is the definition of simple, but fun. The Ball Dozer has you and 3 others share a coin pusher. Just your basic coin pusher, but with balls, and you play a minigame every turn to determine how many balls you get to use. I think this is the only mode where you probably shouldn't try the win a minigames. You see, being the Wii Party god that I am, I of course dominated in every single minigame. However, that also meant I was first to use the pusher. Every time I dropped a ball, it would barely make a dent, but when it was the CPU's turn, they would take advantage of that and constantly push them into the pit. It got even worse when they added this dumb bonus ring, further agonizing my soul. No, not you, Massimo, you're cool. Finally, we have team building. This is a lot like Swap Meet from the first game where you gotta line up Miis of a certain category together. Now instead, you line them up based on their numbers and colors. Problem is, I didn't realize that and proceeded to basically play it like Swap Meet and constantly lost every round. Apparently, the color only applies when they're all matching, otherwise it's just about the numbers, whether they be the same or in ascending or descending order, yada yada. Man, if only I was as good as you, Massimo. The minigames are only played for position here, so nothing too groundbreaking. But hey, looks like they finally bit the bullet and just made Time Bomb into its own minigame. Yeah, now you know how it feels. So I'm not nearly as big of a fan of these games as the original. Even the better ones are just more of the same from the original game, and the more experimental games just kind of suck.
So with that, let's proceed to gloss over the house party mode, which is essentially like ripping off the world's most painful band-aid. Turn your house into a video game playground? You silly baboon, playgrounds are for wimps. I prefer the term bloodbath.
And just what kind of motion control and/or touchscreen-based shenanigans will we find ourselves in today? Let's find out with the first game, Button Smashers. Frankly, I think they should just apologize to me personally for lying like that. You do not, in fact, smash the buttons. Rather, you take turns holding down certain buttons on the Wii Remote and gamepad while making sure not to let go. It's quite a difficult task when you're by yourself, but still completely doable. Next, we have Name That Face, which uses the gamepad's camera. It's pretty basic. You're given a prompt of a face to make, you take a picture, and everyone else has to guess what face you're supposed to be making. Clearly, this was what people were flocking to buy a Wii U for. In Lost and Found Square, two Miis need to team up to find a third Mii. No, that's too easy. The person with the gamepad has to look around and tell you where they are based off their surroundings. Whoever finds them first wins again. Pretty boring. Ah, I see the Wii series has finally entered the era of text lingo. Can't imagine what they'd say back in 2006. You got pwned?
You know, let's just pretend I never said that.
It's really just a mix of friend connection and buddy quiz from Wii Party 1. One guy uses this slider on the gamepad to answer a question about themselves, and the other two have to do the same just to see how well you know each other. I don't care. Water Runners is actually really interesting. So here you gotta fill up these jugs with water. To do that, you must use the Wii Remote like a ladle and place the gamepad behind you, which has a little river on it. That's really clever use of that technology and makes for a pretty cool game. It doesn't last too long, and I feel like it doesn't have to be in its own separate mode, but it's still really cool nonetheless. Feed Me is obviously a nod to the famous 1986 musical Little Shop of Horrors, and also apparently a Wii Party U minigame. Your friend tells you their order, you memorize it, and click on whatever they asked for. That's all you do, and it works entirely on the honor system. Great. Dance With Me is another pretty interesting game. Here you choose a song that rivals Wii Music's library, place the gamepad on the floor, hold hands with your friend Kumbaya style, and basically slow dance with them. It's like a basic rhythm game where you need to work together and make sure you swing the remotes at the right time. My favorite part is that the Tetris theme is one of those songs, which elevates this to the top of my list by default. We now approach the final main section, Gamepad Party. While so far we've seen some pretty cool gamepad concepts, these games fully embraced its technology. Basically, you place a gamepad on a flat surface, then turn it so you and a friend can play various tabletop games on the gamepad screen. It's really cool for what it is, and wait, no. Yeah, so if you've seen part 1, you'd remember how I mentioned one of Nintendo's more recent attempts to revitalize the Wii series Clubhouse games on the Switch. That had a bunch of tabletop games that I had thought were partially inspired by Wii Sports, but as it turns out, they're basically carbon copies of the gamepad party games. We got Foosball, which is what that is. There's also this neat little baseball game, which is actually a real thing I've somehow never heard of. By the way, of course I'm amazing at it. Me in a Row is a lot like checkers, but you instead need to line up your Mii's pieces together so it's whole. There's a head, torso, and leg piece that you can use to block your opponent from doing the same. Oh hey Massimo, glad to see you again. Every few turns you can actually play a tabletop minigame, which is its own category of games. Tabletop Gauntlet puts you in this little marble obstacle course where it's a race to the finish with a bunch of different obstacles you can traverse by using the joystick to tilt the table it's on. It's another basic game, but one that I think is really fun. Animal Matchup is a matching game for 3-year-olds, and finally finally, Puzzle Blockade. You both push blocks together to form some random thing, which kinda reminded me, at least visually, of Picross 3D on the DS. If you have just 2 people and are kinda tired of the main party games, then I'd say that Gamepad Party's pretty good. Yeah, there's a hell of a lot more nothing than usual, but the tabletop games especially are a treat. Finally, we have the various minigame modes. I think it's just best we barrel through them. The all-play mode lets you play every minigame in the game, which is very helpful. Free play contains many endless versions of some minigames, as well as a new game, Demolition Row, which is basically just Puyo Puyo. Bridge Burners has you play in various more challenging versions of minigames to move pieces of a bridge. I am very not good at it, so let me introduce you to Party Penny. She's basically like Girl Party Phil, but she's also the host of the minigame section, so I should at least mention her. Dojo Domination puts you in a ninja class where you face off against hordes of Miis in various minigames. It's an okay single-player game, but I'm a huge fan of these illustrated backgrounds it has. Battle of the Minigames is just the battle mode from the first game, where you just face off in minigames. Tabletop Tournament is more of the same, but now it's an elimination tournament where you compete in the tabletop minigames. Considering how short those are, this isn't a very long game. Laura can drown in a lake. Finally, we should maybe slow down a bit for this mode. This is also in the original, but for whatever reason, I completely glossed over it, so I'm gonna talk about it here. Spot the Sneak is basically like TTT and Gmod, where a certain player becomes the sneak. Surprisingly, they don't murder people in cold blood, but they're given advantages in the minigames that let them win, and after every game, the players have to guess who the sneak is. When you guess right, you steal their points. Basically, if they won something bad, they've probably done. A lot of people like this mode, and while I understand why they would, I just don't feel the same. Man, this is just Wii Party again. It very much still has the issue of there being way too much content, and now on top of that, there's added gamepad gimmick nonsense. I enjoyed the party games and surprisingly some of the house party and gamepad party modes, but I felt like a lot of them were just more mediocre than the other games. The graphics are really nice, and the tabletop games especially were really cool to me, but I just can't shake that feeling that this was a mediocre experience? I know, me not caring about a Wii Series game that retreads many of the same ideas from the previous game while still maintaining a lot of the previous game's issues? Blasphemous that I would even think of such a thing. If I were to believe a statement as ludicrous as that, I might as well be
Currently taking all, and I mean all of the placemats in the local Red Robins. Does his cruelty know no bounds? Who will he strike next? Will he not pay for not liking Pokemon Rumble U? I don't know, damn it!
How does he get around that fast? It's only been 10 weeks. It's been 10 weeks. And just in time, too. I've been saving this last game for this very occasion. Ah, yes. The final game Nintendo would release in the original Wii series. A remake of a classic sequel that everyone knows and loves. Wii Sports Resort what? Yeah, hi. Is this Samuel's Cartridges and Manuals Incorporated? Yes, I understand I paid $90 for this, but the box said Wii Sports Resort HD. Yeah, I have dyslexia. Why? Damn it. Whatever. So obviously Wii Fit You and Wii Party You didn't sell very well, even for Wii U standards. So as a last-ditch effort, Nintendo decided to give one last hurrah to the Wii series, a final farewell to this era of motion-controlled minigame madness, Wii Sports Club. I mean, it makes sense. Something I've been saying since February 2021 is that Wii Sports sold over 80 million copies. Even if it didn't sell as well as the original, which was basically a guarantee, even a fraction of that would be a huge profit. But of course, they had to change things up a bit to set it apart. I'll tell you what that would be in a little bit, but for now, let's discuss its development. I don't know. Yeah, not exactly a lot of insight there, but there isn't a lot of relevant information outside of, remember that funny sports game? Let's do that again! The game would be developed by Nintendo and Bandai Namco, the Go Vacation guys, and I guess Pac-Man, Katamari, and several others, but the Go Vacation guys? This would be the first of several games that they would help develop, including the Smash Brothers series. As you can tell, they were really pulling out the big guns for Wii Sports' big return. The game would be announced in yet another Nintendo Direct, and one that, ironically, also happened to heavily feature Wii Fit U. Various aspects of it were detailed, which kind of peeled back the curtain on why no one hears about this game anymore. Wii Sports Club wouldn't be a standalone release, rather the various sports were to be split up and sold separately, kinda like DSiWare games. Yeah, the handheld with basic internet features apparently inspired them to do the same on a home console that could already play the version that came out 7 years earlier for free. I'll get into specifics later, but people weren't exactly happy with that. But hey, it has online play, so that's a thing. The game would release exclusively on the Nintendo eShop on, oh for
fuck's sake. So tennis and bowling were released in Japan on October 30th, 2013, in Europe and North America.
Hey, have you ever heard the phrase, just because you can doesn't mean you should? Honestly, that could apply to literally any game I've talked about today, but I'm specifically mentioning it here to avoid having whatever good memories I have left of Wii Sports permanently tarnished.
Over half a year later on June 26th.
Let's just do it. Welcome back, old friend.
I gotta admit, no matter how critical I am of many of the other games I've talked about today, it felt really nice to see the Wii Sports logo again. Of course, everything's being Wii U-ified, so it's not exactly the same, but it's nice nonetheless. So first things first, let's go over the clubs. Shockingly, they don't do much. You join a club based on your location, except for me, who will absolutely rise to the top of the Venezuela club. When you get a high score or any other record, you can share them to your club through nothing. So in short, the club feature is now almost entirely useless except for publicly doxing people. So with that out of the way, let's once again talk about the sports of Wii Sports Club. Even if it's not Wii Sports Resort, some of the mechanics from that game made it back into here. First of all, some UI elements are ripped right from it, even some sound effects. As for the sports themselves, I feel alive again. It's nice to see tennis again and in HD, but man, are those colors really drab. Higher resolution aside, one of the things I liked about the original were the bright and colorful visuals, so this is just wrong. The ground looks like it's been raining or something, it's just weird. But there's also my issues with the controls. Like Wii Fit U, Wii Sports Club makes full use of the Wii Remote Plus, which sounds awesome. The only issue I ever really had with the original were the wishy-washy motion controls, so improving that would make it perfect in concept. Like take this for instance. You can see that I have much more fluid control of the racket, but whenever I hit the ball, it still moves in a more stilted way. Like they implemented the look, but not the feel. It's something that became more obvious the more I played. At least whatever witch curse was on the crowd that turned them into glass wore off. Heading to bowling, not baseball, that's been moved down for some reason. Like why? What's the point of that? It's still in the game, guys. Anyways, bowling is just as great as it always was. I feel like I have to put more force into my throws, but it was something I got used to. By good golly, they added windows! Finally, I no longer feel like I'm bowling in oblivion. I'm not a huge fan of the flat fonts, it's just not the same as the golden 3D text. Golf is just bad, honestly. First of all, the gross bland colors are back in full swing, and speaking of full swing, the controls are just not good. The original was very finicky, and with Wii Sports Resort, they fixed that. Except now they reversed that into being something much worse entirely because of the Wii U gamepad. Yes, the gamepad is used here sometimes. In most of the games, it just displays random Miiverse posts, or nowadays, just random sports facts. It probably would have been less insulting if they just put the game's DLC on there, but I guess that's a little too on the nose. In golf, you place the gamepad on the ground and the ball is displayed there. I get it's supposed to be like more immersive, but it just screws everything up. Since the same pointing the remote at the IR sensor thing is here as well, the tracking is just awful. Even if I'm holding the remote still, it drifts ever so slightly and it's really annoying. Half my shots curve to the left and right no matter what I do, and at some point it just feels like I'm moving on my own. I already hated golf, so thank you, Nintendo, for validating my hatred even more. Finally, we get to baseball, which is honestly pretty okay now. I like it a lot more than I used to. It feels satisfying to hit the ball, but where things change majorly is when it's time to pitch. In the original, the action of pitching was accomplished by literally any conceivable motion possible. Here, though, the gamepad is used once again. You aim the ball with the gyro, hold down any of the face buttons for whatever pitch you want to make, and depending on how long you hold it, this meter will fill up, determining how powerful your throw will be. I love this. It's something that adds a lot to being the pitcher aside from just waiting for it to be over. There's an actual strategy you can apply, and while mine's just being a major asshole, it makes baseball actually worth it, which is a miracle beyond comprehension. Oh, boxing, how I missed you. The original controls were very stilted, with the even more basic nunchuck controls feeling pretty restricted, so I was ecstatic to see that boxing uses two Motion Plus controllers, like climbing in Wii Fit U. So I'm happy to report that the controls are worse. Much worse. No matter what kind of punch you throw, it's just so stilted. It's like time stops every time you throw a punch. They're so slow, and it causes you to be vulnerable to attacks because I gotta wait for my damn arm to reload. No matter if we have a professional referee I can trust, it's just not good. And they got rid of the results music, why? We're not done just yet, however, because there's still the extra modes that Wii Sports Club has. Wii Fitness mode got nerfed, which is great, but in its place is the game's online mode. I think it's really cool. Being able to play bowling online with a real person is something I would have killed for back in 2013. The only stipulation being is that it's Wii Sports Club and it's a f***ing ghost town. Even when it works, the proverbial Nintendo network lag is very present, so maybe just avoid it. But it can't be Wii Sports without the training mode. That's right, it's back. Each minigame is included in their respective sports instead of in its own menu, but it's still the training we all remember. 100-pin bowling, spin controller back, and hey, Massimo, nice to see you back again. There's this weird whack-a-mole game in the tennis mode giving me war flashbacks to Wii Play Motion. Let's just not mention golf ever again. Besides from those things, they're fine. There's not too much to write home about here. It's still the same basic but really fun experience. But I've been purposefully leaving out the most egregious and downright scummy part of Wii Sports Club. When it was initially released, the game was free to download, with a trial, after which you'd have to pay for it. It came out in phases, first with tennis, bowling, golf, and whatnot, but instead of it being a one-time package that would get regular updates, like, say, the Smash Bros. DLC, you would have had to buy access to each sport separately, which is just the absolute worst idea I've ever heard of. Again, all of this was free. But as if that wasn't bad enough, there's a pass system. And there it is. You know, Wii Music would have sold a whole lot better if they locked all the songs behind a conductor's pass. There are two passes. The day pass for $1.99, which lets you play every sport, but only for 24 hours. The club pass lets you permanently unlock a sport for $10, considering you have to pay for every sport separately with the exception of baseball and boxing for whatever reason. That comes to a total price of $40 for Wii Sports. That is 4 Super Mario runs. That is just an insulting price to ask for a barely enhanced collection of tech demos on a console that, and I can't stress this enough, already play these games for free. For Christ's sake, you're making down payments on Wii Sports. None of the new additions they made justify that whatsoever. Wii Sports Resort launched at a price of $50, which is also a lot, but that completely overhauled the controls, aesthetics, and improved everything from the original game while including heaps of new content. What was their excuse? Was it that no one would care because it's Wii Sports? Well, clearly that was not the case. Since it sold so poorly, its sales aren't even listed anywhere online. They tried to rectify this with a physical release that included every sport for one price, but then they made the great decision to make it a limited release. They Mario 3D All-Starred us all the way back in 2014. It's as if they're saying, fine, you don't want to pay for our barely reskinned tech demos? Then here's a shiny box to keep it in. Oops, not anymore. It's so obvious they rushed this. Just look at the box. The front and back look fine, but they forgot the little tab at the top of the spine. Something that's uniform with every Wii U game they just completely forgot about. That is embarrassing. I think the game itself is fine, nothing special, just fine, but asking me to pay Pokemon Sun prices for it? No, absolutely not. It's a pain in the ass to find any secondhand copies that aren't $60 because of its limited release, which just adds extra salt in that wound. Overall, just shame on you guys. At first, it was really great to be back to the classic simplicity of Wii Sports. It's something that's been lost over the years, but all of the added modes and the less than stellar gamepad integration doesn't make it stand out any more than the original, which was free. It makes no sense to try and play it. Unless you like a watered-down, dry, bland version of Wii Sports, just don't even. And that is it! I am done. I am done with all these just okay, nothing special, white bread, disc-shaped, nothing burgers. It was nice to revisit things I love from my past, but watching its slow descent into cash-grabbing mediocrity was agonizingly dull. I think finally being free from the shackles of early 2010s Nintendo is the greatest Christmas present I could ever ask for. What now?
Oh, I hadn't even started yet. Domestic terrorist Ryal Coulter is now hijacking Microsoft's online store! Like, what the fuck?
That's pretty lame. That happens like every week now.
With the intent to delist the free Xbox Live Arcade game Hexic HD.
That asshole can impersonate me, frame me for murder, robbery, and even overthrowing the damn government, but no one has the right to take away the masterpiece that is Hexic HD. Alright, you quite literally two-faced son of a bitch, where are you?
Ow! Hi there.
Oh, right. I know you were voted most likely to be a terrorist when you were in middle school, but people don't actually pursue those. You know that, right?
Well, I guess that's your problem now, dipshit. Maybe you should unleash the powerful ghost that hates your guts into the real world.
All right, first of all, real world, I like to refit you. This is clearly a simulation. Second of all, suck my testicles. And third of all, I'm gonna metaphysically kick your ass.
With what? Your unwashed hands?
That is a personal choice.
Fine, you wanna go that way?
Okay, the simulation thing was supposed to be a joke, but the metaphysical ass-kicking part wasn't.
Bring it on!
All right, this is it. The moment you've all been waiting for.
Ow! What the hell was
A pencil case with a brick in it, you dick. Now get over here. Man, what happened to you? You were that friend I could always rely on no matter what. You were just simple and easy for anyone to talk to, but you just kept adding more and more to your personality to try to make yourself something you're not. And now you're taking it out on me because I wasn't willing to pay for your mistakes. But I want you to know that no matter what we've been through, despite everything that's happened, I know the real you's in there somewhere, and I just want that you back.
What are you talking about? We were never friends. We only ever knew each other because you ran over my cat and duct taped it together, thinking I wouldn't notice.
Oh my god. You're right, Kolton. This is just like the Wii series.
You are an actual sociopath.
The Wii series, to me, will always be one of Nintendo's most interesting, somewhat forgotten franchises. Before I started this, I had played maybe like 3 Wii Series games, and as of sitting here right now, I've just played 11 of them. 8 games that were almost entirely new to me, opening up the biggest rabbit hole I've ever sunk through. I mean, the fact that any of these games are in the same series as Wii Sports and no one talks about them anymore is amazing to me. It's like as if there was a second holy grail that Jesus only used as a spit bucket. If you told me 3 years ago today that there was a sister game to Wii Sports Resort that had half-baked Mario Party games, or better yet, an HD Wii Sports with a subscription service, I would probably report you to the FBI for crimes against humanity. But behind all that told an even better story. One of a company that just wanted to make a simple game to test out their wacky waving stick. Little did they know that it would absolutely dominate in sales just because they included it in the console for free. So they cashed in on it in various ways, making sequels that improve on the original games, going completely nuts on the casual market, basically doing anything to cash in on their gold mine. But as we saw today, the well had to run dry eventually, and by the time Wii Sports Club had come out, it was just so obvious that no one cared anymore. And that's why it disappeared. They just tried way too hard to turn a stupid sports game into a full franchise. There's really not a whole lot you can do with a concept like that before it gets stale. But that doesn't matter. I'm glad I got to play all these games. On one hand, I got to experience games that I consider to be hidden gems, and even the bad games made me appreciate how great the originals were. Wii Sports isn't just a milestone in gaming history that everyone remembers. It's a cautionary tale about what happens when you fly too close to the sun. It all comes crashing down eventually.
So you see, man, you just gotta give this whole revenge thing a rest. No one really cared anyways. Come on, let's go back to my house and we'll play some Christmas Nights into Dreams. So what about all those people you killed?
What are they gonna do? Send me to ghost prison?
Of all the things that exist on this planet, I was not expecting Ghost Jail to actually be one of those things. Well, I've been exonerated of all my non-existent crimes, and I even finished an entire franchise of games that spawned from pure nostalgia. I think it's finally time I enjoy this holiday. Oh, Nintendo, you'll never let it go. Unless, of course, it's F-Zero, Rhythm Heaven, Star Fox, or any of the Game Boy Advance games. I know what I have to do now.
Nintendo Switch.
If they're not gonna end it, I will.
And thus, Christmas was saved, thanks to yet another psychotic man playing video games that not a single person even cares about. Yeah, that's right. I'm the narrator too, bitch! Yeah! 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 Holy shit.